Good morning, everybody. How exciting this is. Yes, we are here Thursday morning, nice and bright outside. It's a beautiful cold day here in New York, but we can do it. And I hope you join me for the live session today and tomorrow. It's going to be 2 days. Hopefully, that's all that we'll need. But we're going to have some fun creating a new Mintay album that I've been showing in the live. And as I mentioned, you can use any collection that you want. So we're going to go over what you're going to need and what we're going to be doing first. And I have the link for the PDF file, the cut list already. If you want to download it and go over it with me, that would be great. If not, I have it here, and you'll be able to just look at it with me. Okay, so that's that. And one more thing. Hi, Martha. Good morning. There's an echo. Uh-oh. Okay. Let me do this. Okay, how about now? Is there an echo? Let me know if there's an echo still. Okay, I'll turn all of my volumes off. Okay. Hopefully it will be good. It's the first time that I'm doing it, so I have no idea how it's coming on the other side. Is there still an echo? Can you let me know? Yay, thank you, Martha. I appreciate it. Okay, so this is my first time actually doing the stream on both Facebook and YouTube together. I've never done it before. I'm doing it on StreamYard. So I will try to read the comments as I go along. And I'm not the kind of person to comfortably do 2 tasks at the same time, but I will try. If I missed your comment or your question, please make sure to write it down so that I can go over it and answer it at the later time. Okay, it's going to be a long session, 2 days long, and it'll be available to you, the recording, at a later time. You know, once it's done, I will post the recording and you can watch it later. Okay, so I wanted to show you what I mean by doing one project that will fit any Mintay collection that you have. Today we're going to be working with Graceful because it was what was voted on. People liked Graceful the best, so this is what I'll be doing today. I showed you 2 albums that I used. This one is Berrylicious, and this is what we'll be making today with the new collection. Okay, so this is the 8.5 by 10.5 by 3. So as you can see, I pulled 3 different collections here, and I want to show you what I mean side by side. So for example, this is Harmony. Okay, so Mintay have 1 page in the collection that has 12 cards in it, and then they have 1 page that have fussy cuts. Okay, this is their number 1. Number 1, 2, and 3 will have their big design elements. So they're usually on some kind of on the sides here, and then in the middle there's something that, you know, is not the focus on. Like over here they have a door. Here they have a little design element. Here they have the bird, that thing. Number 2 have the 2 elements on these sides. Number 3 will also have the elements on this side. 4 and 5 is usually florals. They have florals, or this happened to have another element. So that's 4 and 5. Of course, the back sides of them, sides B, have different backgrounds. Let's have a look at farm life. Farm life. This is their fussy cut page. This is their 12 by 12 page. This is number 1. You have 2 elements here. Number 2, have the 2 elements here. Number 3 will have elements. For this one doesn't really have floral, but it has another background. And number 5 has the floral. This is like the second example. A third example I pulled is Cozy Evening. This is their element page to fussy cut. The 12 cutouts. This is number 1. They have the elements here. Number 2. They have elements here. Number 3. 4 is the floral, and 5 is a floral. Okay, so that's what we're working with. If you take, I'm going to switch over to just this page so that you can now see it better. Let me take this out. Okay. So when you download your paper, okay, in the cut list, you have the material list, and then you have the explanation of what I mean by all of the letters and numbers and all those codes. Okay, so this will be your reference. So if I write an S next to a measurement, and I'll pull it up. Okay. So over here, you see I have an S here, an S here, an S here. That means the score line. This is where you're going to score. And I'll show you once we're going to do all the cutting together. We're going to do all the scoring together, everything we'll do live and you'll be able to see. But I just want you to understand when you print the PDF, what it is you're reading. Okay. So the S is where I score. If I have a DS, it means a double score. Okay. I have 2 S's, one next to each other. It means I'm going to score once on one side and once on the other side. And usually pockets will have those 2 S's. Okay, CS is the base cardstock. This is what we're using to actually build the album, put all the pattern paper on. Okay. I usually use either black or white or craft color. In this particular case, I'll be using craft color cardstock, and this is it. And I prepared about 50 sheets. I don't know if I'm going to need 50 sheets, but I prepared about 50 sheets of that. Okay, so that's your base cardstock. The pattern paper, you'll see, is a PP. PP for pattern paper. This is the actual paper that we're using for the album. Today, the pattern paper is Graceful. And then we have solid color cardstock. And these are just coordinating sheets of colored cardstock that go along with the collection that I picked out. See? They're 12 by 12s. They also come in 8.5 by 11. But I picked out the 12 by 12, and that is what I have in the schematics. And they correspond to the collection that you're working with. So that is the solid cardstock. Okay, let me see what else we have here in the abbreviation. You'll have here next to the pattern paper measurements right there. You see, right there. you'll have what sheet I am cutting out of. So if I'll have 12, number 03, number 1, I'm cutting out of the 12 by 12, sheet number 3, and I have 2 of each, so I have either number 1 or number 2. I will show it to you later as we come along, but right now I'm just telling you what these numbers are that you see on the spreadsheet. Okay? You'll be able to tell exactly which item goes where. So if I'm working on section A, okay, and these are my parts that I'm cutting out, you have a description of each one, what it is, if it's a flap, if it's a pocket, and where it goes. You have the measurement of what you're going to cut out of the cardstock, the base cardstock, where you're going to be scoring, and then you have what pattern paper you're putting on which part. So for the A4 pocket, you're going to use A4 pattern paper. These are the measurements, and this is where it's cut from. With it, you're going to be using solid color cardstock with these measurements. Okay. And the last thing that I want you to know about the spreadsheet is that each base, we're doing pocket pages, and there are 2 parts to each pocket page, have one that you're going to be scoring on the top and one that you're going to be scoring on the bottom, and you have it written down here which direction is scored. Okay. So this is, we're going to go over that, and we're going to be working with these together, so you'll see exactly what I am doing. Thank you, Martha. I appreciate it. Okay, so we'll put this aside, these 2 first pages. Okay. And the first thing that I want to show you is the pattern paper that we'll be using and the solid cardstock. So what you will need is a total of 23 sheets. This is what you really need to make this kind of album. 23 sheets of a combination of the pattern paper and the solid cardstock. Okay? In addition to the base cardstock, which is this that you're going to need about, I can put this away. In addition to the base cardstock that you need about 50 sheets from. So I need, let's see, 2 of these for the cover. I'm going to need 2 of the 12 by 12 pattern for the cover. And then I have the one for the fussy cut. This one I'm putting aside because I don't need it right now. I'm going to be using this for decorating my album. Okay. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pattern papers of the 12 by 12. Okay, 10 of the 12 by 12. And we need 1 pack of 6 by 6. In the 6 by 6 pack, there are 4 6 by 6 of each pattern. Now, if you don't have that 6 by 6, that's okay. Take a few of those 12 by 12 and cut them to 6 by 6s. Okay, that's perfectly okay. You know, just make each 12 by 12 will make 4 of them. And from the solid colors, you're going to need about 5. I wrote 6 because I usually do a set of 6. So 1 will be an extra that you can use for tags, for the inserts, if you want to do something fun, or if you screw something up, something happened, you lost a little piece of paper, you have an extra sheet that you can use that instead. And things might happen. Things always happen. You put something the wrong way, you tear it, you know, spilled coffee on it. you need an extra sheet, because after we're done cutting, we're not going to have any leftovers at all, any remnants at all. So just 1 second. I'm live, honey. You need my what? Okay. Just give me a second. Here you go. I'm sorry. Okay. So this is what we're doing today. We're going to start with cutting all the pieces. We're going to cut everything, and then we'll put it together. And the cutting is important, and it's not something that usually is done when you're building an album. Usually you do page by page, you plan it, you cut it, you put it together. But this is going to be different. Okay. This is why the spreadsheet is very detailed. Okay, now as far as glue is concerned, you can use regular liquid glue when you do an album. Like I like to use the art glitter glue, or you can use double-side tape. I like to use the double-side tape usually, but it takes longer. And when I'm doing a fast video, I use regular glue, but I might use my double-side tape today. So I am using, well, you'll see, but it's score tape. And I have a few different sizes here. I have 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, and 3/8. Okay. So I have that. Also going to need some chipboard. You need enough to have 2 sections that are 8.5 by 10.5. So I pulled here my 11 by 8.5 sheets, and I have a remnants, and you need 3 inches by 8.5. So if you have remnants, you can use that. Okay, what else I'm thinking? Oh, the last thing, let's not forget, I always cover the edges with ink or with a marker. So I don't know which one I'll be using yet. I pulled some of my distress inks here. I think I might use one of these two. I don't know, but all these colors will go great. I'll decide which one I'm using later. Okay, let's begin. Are we ready? Yay. I'm going to take my big cutter for the cardstock. Do I want the big? I can take the big cutter, or you know what? No, I'll use the regular one because you'll be able to see it better. I think the big one is just too big for when I do a live. I like it more, a lot more than this, but I think for doing the live, this will be great. Thank you, Jules. I like it too. Okay, so let's start with, we're going to start cutting our base paper the base cardstock, and we're looking over here. We're going to go from A down to B and everything else. I do recommend to mark all of the papers, all of the pages that you cut, so that you know the number of it. Okay. Let's begin. A1, base. All the bases are the same. All the bases are 10 by 8.5. Okay, and they all have scored either at the top or at the bottom. So this is a 10 by So 8.5 by 11, right? So I need it to be 10. So now I have a 10 by 8.5. I'm going to score it once at the 10.5, at the 8.5 side. So when I put the S next to 8.5, it means that the 8.5 side has to be on the top. And we always score top to bottom. So the 8.5 is on the top, and we're going to score 1/2 inch. It's always 1/2 inch unless I wrote a different measurement. Sometimes we score it 1 inch or 2 inches. But if I didn't write where to score it, it's always a 1/2 inch. After we score it a 1/2 inch, when you fold it, you're going to have an 8 by 10 page. So this is my base page, and I'm going to write A1 on it. That's my A1. Okay, and we'll put it aside. Take another one. That's A2. A2 is a right flap, and the measurement is 8 5/8 by 8. So first, let's cut to 8 5/8 by 8. That's 8 5/8. By 8. And we're going to double score it on the 8 5/8 side. So I'm putting it where the 8 5/8 is on the top, and the double score is score 1/2 inch, and again at 5/8. So my double score has a line, has an 1/8 of an inch in between the two score lines. I'm just going to take my embossing because I like to use that. And I want to show you. See my two score lines? Right next to each other. And the reason that I do that is because it gives me a larger return when I fold the paper and then put it onto the base. So to show you, I scored, I folded the two lines, and you see that square here? It means that once I put it in the album and I attach it underneath, I can fit a lot more photographs and elements, and it'll still lay nice and flat and will not go up. Okay, so this is why I do a double score. So this is my A2, and I'm using a pencil so that if I have to erase it, and if I'm not going to have a paper on top of it and I need to erase it, that it's not going to just be there. Okay, so this is my A2. I'm going to try to keep my desk clean, and I'm telling you, I am not good at doing that when I'm doing a live. It's not easy. Okay, A3 is a left flap. It is 8 by 6 3/4. So I'm always considering where I'm cutting my paper to get the most, because I like to not waste paper. So I always remember this is 8.5. If the longest side of my cut will fit inside the 8.5, I will always do the short side, the shortcut along that side. So this is 6 3/4. So I have all this piece here as a remnant that I can use for something else. And I'll turn it over, and I have to cut this at 8. So I have 8 by 6 3/4, and you score it once along the 8 side. So this is the 8 side, score once and 1/2 inch. That's one scored once at 1/2 inch. And this is A3. Okay, A4 pocket is 8 7/8 by 4 1/4. 8 7/8 by 4 1/4. So I can't do 8 7/8 here because it's only 8 1/2. So I'm going to have to do the 8 7/8 over here, and the 4 1/4 will go here. The 4 1/4 actually cuts it in two. 8 1/2 divided by 2 is 4 1/4. And 8 7/8. This is my piece. We're going to score it once along the 4 1/4 side. So this is the 4 1/4. You put it on the top, and you score once, again at 1/2 inch. It's always 1/2 inch. I'm turning it 90 degrees. Now it's the 8 and 7/8 are at the top. And you see I have S and S. I have two S's. So I'm going to score 1/2 here and 1/2 here. I want to change my view for a second, just to see, because I don't know. Just bear with me a second. Okay. Let's go on. Okay, so 8 7/8 here, and I'm going to score once on the right and once on the left. So I scored 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here. That's my pocket. A4. A5. I don't have anything to cut for with basic cardstock for A5, right? So we're jumping to A6. It's a pocket, 4 1/4 by 8 7/8. It's the same exact measurements actually as A4. So I'm going to cut it again. This is my 4 1/4 by 8 7/8. And exactly the same thing I'm doing again. Score once here, once on the other side along the 8 7/8 side. I turn it around and I'll score it on the 1/2 inch. Okay. So that's how you score the pocket. A7, again, I don't have any cardstock for A7. So these are all of my parts for A. Take a clip and I put it together. Okay. I'll put one of them on top so that I can see which number it is. And I keep it together. Okay, moving on to B. B base. B1 is 10 by 8 1/2. This is 10 by 8 1/2. Scored once at 1/2 inch along the 8 1/2 side. So 8 1/2 here. I scored at 1/2 inch. That's B1. B2. In B2, you'll see that I have written 2. See over here, it says 2. So we're going to need 2 of them with the same measurements. 5.5 by 8. I can use 1 sheet because if I cut it in half along the 11th side, it's 5.5, and I have enough here. So let's cut this to 8. We'll turn it around. 5.5. 5.5 and 5.5. Okay. I'm going to double score it along the 5.5 side. This is my 5.5. I'm actually going to score the side where I cut it. Double score means score once at 1/2 inch and once at 5/8. I think I'll use this. Okay. Same thing on the other one because they are identical. Okay, we have 2 that are double scored. B2 and B2. I gave it the same number because they are identical. Okay. We're moving on to B3. Again, we're doing 2 of the same. This time I have 6 3/4 by 4.5. 6 3/4 here. By 4.5 once. 4.5 twice. So I have 2 pieces, 6 3/4 by 4.5, scored once at the 6 3/4 side. So we'll put the 6 3/4 on top and score once at a 1/2 inch. The same thing we're going to do on the other one. Score once at the 1/2 inch. These are B3, B3, B3. These are my flaps. A flap is when you're putting it on the page, it flaps up. That's why we call it flap. Sometimes you'll hear me say flop because of my accent. Okay. Before we have 2 square flaps. Okay, so these I'm cutting at 6 7/8 by 6 1/4, and I'm going to need 2 sheets because I'm not going to be able to do 2 from 1 sheet. So 6 7/8 by 6 1/4. Let's do 6 7/8 here. I'm cutting 2 pages together. By 6 1/4. So these are double scored at the 6 7/8 side, at a 1/2 inch, and again at 5/8. Okay. So actually the distance from here, from the second line, score line to here, is also 6 1/4, which makes it a 6 1/4 square after you double scored it and folded the paper. So after you fold it, yeah, I'll show you. Once it's folded, you'll have a square of 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to double score once, twice. These are B4s, B4, and B4. 4. Okay, moving on to C. C, we only have C1, C2, C3. This is a simple page. When we put the pages together, I will probably start with this page because it is simple and easy. And I want to start off easy for the beginners. Okay, so C1 base, 10 by 8.5. This is 10 by 8.5. And we're going to score it once. So I'm putting the 8.5 side on the top. If you don't have a scoring board at home, it's fine. You know, just find like a soft mat. Many times those mats that you use for, you know, for like the dining room table, you know, that they're soft rubber are good. And find an object like a pen that doesn't work will work great, or anything that's metal that have a metal edge, like, you know, you can use a tweezer, like this side of the tweezer. It can't be too sharp. You know, it has to be a little blunt so that it will not tear the paper, but hard enough so when you press on it, it'll leave a mark. Just take your ruler like that, put it over the soft mat, and with whatever object you have, just go over it this way. It'll score, you know, just make sure that it doesn't tear your paper. Okay. Okay, so this is C1. Let's put our bees together first of all. We don't want to make a mess. Have to be organized, right? B1, especially when I'm doing a live, I can't get messy. C2 is a top flap. It's 6 1/4 by 6 7/8, and C3 is a bottom flap of 6 1/4 and 6 7/8. So they're both the same measurement. I divided it in the spreadsheet. See, over here, I wrote top flap and bottom flap because this is the first page that I'm going to do to show the beginner, and I wanted them to have it separate just so that it's easier. It makes more sense. Okay. So 6 7/8. By 6 1/4, and I'm cutting 2 pieces of paper together. You don't have to. And we're going to double score it at the 6 7/8 side. So this is exactly the same square flap that we've done in section B. You'll get 2 square flaps. And we have quite a few of them in this album. So I have 2, and I double scored it here. These are my C2 and C3. They're the same size right now, so it doesn't matter which I write C2 and which I write C3. That's it. We only have these pieces for section C. And we're moving on to D. D base is 10 by 8.5. 10 by 8.5, 10. 10. I'll turn it around and score it at 1/2 inch along the 8.5 side. D1. D1 have a lot of parts to it. Okay. D2, right flap. Okay. I'm right here. D2, right flap. 10 1/2, double score by 8. 10 1/2. I have to use this long side. I always feel like it's crooked. I don't know why. I'm sure it's not, and it's just me. Okay, and 8. So this is 10.5 by 8, and I'm going to score it, double score it along the 10.5 side. Double score, so I'll put it here at 1/2 inch and at 5/8. And when I write right flap, later when we're going to put it together, we're going to flap it to the right like that. Okay. Hi, Francis. Okay. Let's write it down. This is D2. D3 pocket, 4 3/4 by 9. Okay, I hope the pace is okay. 4 3/4. I'm doing it slowly because I know people might be following me. So scored it twice along the 9-inch side and once along the 4 3/4 side. D3. So D4, well, you see this funny note. I said no D4, it has been eliminated. So I already did everything, and I made my marks and numbers. So I just put it there so you'll know, like, where is D4? There is no D4. The D5 belly band is going to be 1.5 by 8. So I really don't need a new page. I can use one of my remnants finally. You know, the small remnants I can toss away. It's a good idea to always have a little trash bin next to you. Okay. All right, so 1.5 by 8. Let me see. This is good enough. 8 by 1.5. That's 8 by 1.5. D5. D6, 5 5/8 by 6.5. Okay, 5 5/8, 6.5. And we're going to double score along the 5 5/8 side. So the 5 5/8 are on the top, and I'm scoring at 1/2 inch, and at 5/8 of an inch, double scoring. D6. So right now we're not, you know, if you're beginning and you're not sure what we're doing and you just joined us, we're cutting all of the parts to make the albums in accordance with the spreadsheet. And there is a link to download the spreadsheet. It's in a PDF form in the video. Okay, and if it's not there, you can go to my website to www.creative creative-treasures.com, creative-treasures.com, and go to tutorials, and you'll see it there at the top, and it'll give you directions how to go and get the cut list. And you're doing like you're buying a new item. It's for $0, so it will not charge you. If it does, let me know. I'll get you reimbursed, but it shouldn't charge you anything. And after you put all the information and you confirm it, you're going to get a link to download the PDF. Okay, it's 23 pages, and I made it nice and big. You'll have the cut list here, and you'll have schematics of each page, how to cut it. Okay, so that was just an interim note. We can move on. We just did D6, and let's do D7. D7 is a pocket flap, and a pocket flap, I just want to show you what it is, just so that you'll see what we're doing here. Okay, so this is the page that we're cutting right now. This is a pocket flap. It's a flap that is also a pocket, and it houses in there a photo mat. Okay? So that this is like a belly band that we cut, and this is a belly band that we just cut. Okay. Okay. This is the piece that will go here, for example. This is a belly band. This is the pocket flap. Okay. This is a pocket. All right. Just wanted to show you what it means in case, like I said, if you've never done an album before and you hear all these words and you don't know what they mean. It will all make sense in the end. Okay, so we're doing a pocket flap. So this is the flap is 5.5 by 7.5, and I'm going to cut the 5.5 here and the 7.5 here. Okay. And we're going to score it, double score the 5 and 5/8. Oh, sorry, I just did the D7. Yeah, we did D6 already. Okay. D7 is the pocket itself. Yeah, I just lost my train of thoughts for a minute. So we're going to score it once along the 5.5 side. Put the 5.5 on top. And we're going to score it twice on the 7.5 side. And I have 2 S's. So the 2 S's mean I'm scoring it once on the right and once on the left. Still in 1/2 inch. See, so I have score here and here and here. This is D7. D8 is a photo mat, 5 3/8 by 6 1/4. Let me see if I have 5 3/8 here. I do. Okay, 5 3/8. It's a photo mat, so I'm gonna actually write D8 here at the corner, at the edge, not in the middle, because the photo mat, I'm gonna leave this area clear. So I'm just writing D8 on the edge. D9 belly band, 2 1/4 by 6 1/2. We'll use a remnant for that. Is 2 1/4? Yeah, I have 2 1/4 here. Two 1/4 by 6 1/2. It's D9. And D10 is 4 3/4 by 9. 4 3/4 by 9. Okay. So the 9-inch side was scoring it twice, SS, so 1 on each side, 1 here and 1 here. And at the 4 3/4 side, I'm scoring it once at 1/2 inch. Okay, this is D10. And I think we're done with all of our cardstock cuts for D, for section D. There are a lot of them. We're moving to E. Let's do E base. Okay, 10 by 8.5. E1. Oh, I need to score it. Yes, let's score. Along the 8.5 side, 1/2 inch. Okay. E2, a waterfall. Waterfall are a few flaps that are attached one on top of the other. Okay, they show one on top of the other, and then let me show you. I will show you. Okay, so this is a waterfall. They have 1 flap, 2, and 3, and they're right under one underneath the other. Okay, so we're gonna need 3. See, it has 3. 6 1/4 by 6 7/8, double scored. So I'm taking 3 pages because I can't fit 2 into a single one. Six 7/8 by 6 1/4. Okay, and we're going to score them, double score them at the 6 7/8 side. This is the 6 7/8 side. Double score 1/2 inch and 5/8. Going to repeat that the same on all 3. And they are all E2. E2, E2. They're all the same, so I can say, I can give it all the same code, E2. E3 is a pocket again, 5 by 11. So 5 by 11. I need to cut 5 inches here. It's going to be a long pocket. Okay, so I have 11 here already. Let's double score along the 11 side, 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch on the other side. And once along the 5 inch line. Okay. So after I fold my pocket on the 11 inch side, that's a 10 inch long pocket. It means it will go along the entire length of the page. And that's E3. Okay, let's put all the E's together. So we're almost done with cutting the cardstock, and then we'll get to the pattern paper, which is fun. Well, I think we're going to do the solids first. Okay, so F, we have a base of 8.5 by 10. I need to trim this to 10 and score again along the 8.5 side. F1. F2 waterfall. I have 12. See, I have 12. We're going to do 12 flaps, small flaps, 3.5 by 4 7/8. So the first thing I want to do, because they are small flaps, is I'm going to go now to my remnants. And look, I have a lot of them, right? We have a lot. So let's take these. How about oh, these are almost all the same. And I need 3.25 by 4 7/8. So first, let's say the narrow side is 4.25 or 4 and an 8, which means this will have to be the 3.25 side, and this will have to be the 4 7/8 side. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I can only cut 3 at a time on this one. So we'll put it together. I'll cut it at the 3.25. That's why I like my Carl. It's more heavy duty cutter, and I can cut 12 of them together. But okay. So now I have a 3.25 here. Let's cut it to 4 7/8 here. So I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3.25. Four 7/8. Okay. Here I have a different size paper, so I think I can fit 4 7/8 here. I can. 4 7/8. 3.25. Let me see how many I have. I need 12, right? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need 3 more. 3. is 10, 2 more. One. All right, here we go. We were able to use a lot of remnants for this, and now I'm going to just clear my remnants, put it on the side because I have a lot of little pieces now that I don't need. I don't need to keep it on my desk. So I'm just going to keep a few. Okay. Okay, we're all set. Now we have to score these. And these we're going to be scoring, let me see, double score. Yeah, well, double score along the 4 7/8 side. With 1/2 inch and at 5/8. Go ahead and score all of them. Okay, I have some comments. Hi, Corrine. The name of what I'm scoring with is We Are Memory Keepers Cut and Scoreboard. It is not my ultimate favorite, but it is very convenient to use because you can cut and score at the same time. And it's easier for me. It's easy for me to use when I'm doing live. And I also like it because the numbers are from right to left. I have another scoreboard that the numbers are from left to right. And it drives me nuts because I'm not left-handed and it's hard to do it this way. So yeah, it's a nice scoreboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm not going to write F2 on all of them because they're all the same size. So I'm just going to write F2 on one, and it should be enough. Okay, F3, we don't have any cardstock to cut. F4 are closures. And we're going to do 3 that are 1 3/4 by 4 7/8. So let's take some remnants. I'm saying remnants a lot, aren't I? Okay. Let's see, this is, okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this is 6 7/8. I think I have enough. I need 4 7/8. You know, I think this is wrong. Let me just measure it. I think I made it longer and I might have forgotten to change it. So before I go ahead and cut, I'm gonna just check it. Yes, I think I made it longer. Yeah, 5.5. I need it to be 6 7/8. 6 5/8. 6 5/8. Hmm. 6.5 maybe. Okay. Yeah, I made it a little longer. Let me change that. So if you already printed, if you printed this, please make that correction on the closures. It is not 4 7/8. It is 6 7/8. Okay. Just want to see again. No, 5 7/8. 5 7/8. 1 3/4 by 5 7/8. It's amazing. I went through this list several times, made a lot of corrections, and I still find errors. Okay, by 1 3/4. Okay. And we're going to double score it. Okay. So these are the closures. The F4. Okay, we'll go to G1. Let's put the F's together. Okay, the base is the same, 10 by 8.5. Score it along the 8.5 side. It's G1. G2 waterfall, we're going to do 3 6 7/8 by 6 1/4. It's the same square flaps that we've done before. We've done it a couple of times. This is again, I'm taking 3 pages. Trimming it at 6 7/8. By 6 1/4. Okay. And we're going to double score around the 6 7/8 side. This is the 6 7/8 side. Double score at 1/2 inch and at 5/8. Double score. repeat the same on all three. Okay. And these are our G2s. G2, G2, G2. Remember, so section C, we also had a waterfall like that. Section C or section E? Section E, I think. So it's going to repeat itself, but just a little bit different. Okay. Take a clip. And we're going to do Okay, G3, we don't need to cut anything. G4 is a pocket. Another long pocket. 2.5 by 11. So it's a very long and thin pocket. Trim it at 2.5. And it's scored once along the 2.5 side. So it leaves you a pocket that's 2 inches wide, right? And this is the 11 side. I'm going to score twice, one on each side. It's G4, okay? And G5, we don't need to cut any cardstock. Okay, H1. Base 10 by 8.5. So you got the hang of it by now, right? We can try to do this one a little faster. What do you say? Okay, 8.5 by 10. H1. H2 right flap, 10 3/8 by 8. 10 3/8 is here. Turn it over and cut it to 8. We're going to double score along the 10 3/8 side. Over here, double score 1/2 inch and at 5/8. H2. H3 is a pocket flap. You know, we already did one pocket flap, but this is going to be different. This one, we're going to cut at 10 3/8 by 4. And I think I have one remnant here that I can use, which is this. This is 4 by 10 3/8. Double score along the 10 3/8 side. Once, twice. So this flap is very long and narrow. H3. H4 is pockets over pocket flap, and I'm going to have 2 pockets over this flap. So let's take a page and do 5 3/4 by 4.5. Okay, so 4.5. 4.5. 5 3/4. 5 3/4 by 4.5. I have 2 of them. I'm going to be scoring it twice along the 5 3/4 side. Once here and once on the other side. And then once along the 4.5 side. So I turn it over, the 4.5 is on top, and I'm scoring it once. This is one pocket. I'm going to repeat and do exactly the same thing on this one. Score once at 1/2 inch on the right, once 1/2 inch on the left. Turn it around. Well, it's turning it 90 degrees, not really around. So I have 2 pockets scored on 3 sides. These are my H4. Okay, and I want to show you what I've done here. Okay, so we've done H4. Now we're at H5, and I have H5 plus H8, 2 of them. So one of them is going to be H5 and one will be H8. And then I have H6 and H9 flaps, again, 2 of them. And the reason I've done it is because once, it's going to be on the right side, one is going to be on the inside. So I just decided to name it different, but I put it together because they're the same exact thing. Okay, so we're going to do 2 of these, 2 pockets, 2 flaps, the same size. Okay, so 2 5.5 by 4.5. I'm cutting it to 5.5 here. I get 2 equal 5.5 parts. By time 4.5. Two 5.5 by 4.5. Let's score it twice along the 5.5 side, once on each side. Turn 90 degrees and score once. Gonna do the same thing here. Okay. Did I lose my pencil? It is. So these are my H5. One I'm going to call H5 and one I'm going to call H8. Okay. Now 7.5 by 4.5 twice. So let's trim it here to 7.5. By 4.5, and again 4.5. So I have 2 parts that are 7.5 by 4.5, and I need to score it once along the 7.5 side. So the 7.5 side is on the top. I'm scoring it once here, and then the same thing here. Okay, and these are H6 and H9. Okay. And further down, I have H7 right there, H7 pocket, 4.25 by 9. And I don't think I have a remnant that's long enough. Four and a quarter by 9. So the 9 side is scored twice, once on each side, and once along the 4.25 side. Okay, H7. Okay, H10. We don't need any base cardstock. Okay, nothing for H10. Okay. See, it's empty H10. There's nothing here, so we're not cutting anything here. Moving on to I1 and J1. Now, I1 and J1 are the parts that are going to go inside the cover, and they're identical. One is going to be a pocket inside cover on the right, and one is going to be a pocket inside cover on the left. So I put it together because they're short, they're identical, and the same measurements. Okay. So I have one remnant that's long enough. to do a 9 1/4 by 2 3/4. And that's it. I don't know if I have another remnant. Oh, I do have. I do. Yay. Okay. 9 1/4 by 2 3/4. So we're going to score it once here along the 2 3/4 side. And on each side along the 9 1/4 side. 1/2 inch. Do the same thing with the other one. Oops. Okay. So one is J1 and one is I1. I1 and J1. And I and J, I'm keeping them together as well. Okay, so we finished everything. Let me just put H section together. There are a lot of parts for section H, you guys. It's going to be a fun one to do. Okay. So we have all of our cardstock pieces cut out. We can put the cardstock away on the side. We might need more, but for now I can put it aside. Okay, so all our section for with the solid cardstock are cut. I'm going to put this together on the side. Remember, we have to make a correction on F4. It is F4, it is 1 3/4 by 5 7/8, not 4 7/8. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to the solid cardstock. Now what you're going to have is you're going to have the schematics of all of them, and it tells you the section and how it is cut on the paper. So let's take, where are my solids? What did I do with my solids? Here. Okay, so we have 6 solids. We're just going to pick 5 of them. 5 or 6? No, 6 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Should have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we do have 6. Okay. We have 6. Okay. So to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter. I just cut it how I cut it, and however it lands, that's how I apply it on in the album. You know, if you want, you can, you know, pick and choose which sheet you want where. But we're just going to start here and work our way down. Okay. So let's take first one. I don't remember what order I have them at. Oh, I numbered my pages. It's 11, 12, 13, 9, 10. Here we go. Yeah, I did not put numbers on the pages, but I think it will be a good idea. Okay. So you have the schematics, and you have a ruler here on the top. Let me show it to you closer. Okay. You have a ruler here. So this will help you determine how to, how to cut it when you go to cut the paper. You also have the measurements in the cut list. Okay, so you're not left without this information. You can always refer back to it. For example, this is A4 solid cardstock, 7 3/4 by 3. And if you look at the cut list, A4 solid cardstock, 7 3/4 by 3. Okay, so you'll have it here as well. H9, 7 7/8 by 5. So you'll go to H. Let's see, where's our H? H7, H9 is here. H9, 5 and 7 by 5 by 7 and 7/8. Okay, so you always have your cut list to refer to. But the schematics will show you how to cut it on the paper itself. So if this is your paper and you lay it straight, you have the placement. So when you're cutting the paper, if you have basil and you have another kind of cardstock and you have this little thing here, take it out. You just need the 12 by 12. So cut out whatever excess thing you have. You don't need it. So I'm always starting where I have a straight line and it's just easier for me to cut. So the easiest way for me to start cutting this particular page is right here, because I have a cut line going from this corner to this corner. And the cut line is at 3 3/4. Okay, at 3 3/4 here and 6 here. This is the same exact measurements, 6 by 3 3/4. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 3 3/4 here, and I'm just going to cut it straight line down. Okay. So imagine this is what you're looking at. Okay, if it's disorienting for you a little bit, you can always take your pencil and mark it where you want it to be. It's perfectly okay to turn your page around. Okay, if this is a textured cardstock and you have textures on this side, you can do it on this side. So just, you can mark A, B, C, D. And you can mark this here, A, B, C, D. So you'll have more orientation of where you're cutting what as you're turning the page around. Okay. So I want to do this side here, right? Over here. Like that. Okay, 3 3/4. But I like to cut on the right side. I don't like to cut on the left side. But so 3 3/4. You can mark it too if you like, if it's easier for you. 3 3/4 will be here. Take 3 3/4. Here, I'm not going to put it all the way down just because I want to show you how it's cut. Okay, this is our page, and we cut it now. A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. And this is the line that we cut. Okay, that's how we're going to look at this and cut this. Okay. So let me just cut the rest of it here. And now I'm going to cut this in the center. It needs to be 6 inches and 6 inches. So I'm cutting it at 6 inches here. And these are my A5. I'm going to write on the back A5. I'm writing on the back because I'm going to be gluing it down anyway. So this is the side that you're going to see. I can write here A5 and A5. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, whatever I cut, I put aside, and then we're going to divide it according to the sections. Okay, next. So next thing that I want to do is cut it here. This line. This line right there. This is 7 7/8. So this is 12 inches to 12 inches, and I'm going to bring it to 7 7/8. And cut it down. I'm going to turn it 90 degrees and cut it at 5 inches. Okay. And this should be 3 over here. Okay, so I have 5 by 7 7/8 here. That's my H9. Let's mark H9. So this piece is what I have left over here. And this needs to be cut to 7 3/4 by 3. Let's measure 3. I have a little piece left. And 7 3/4. Here we go. 7 3/4 by 3. That's my A4. And I have this piece, which is this remnant here, this whatever I have left over. And all I need to cut out of that is 7 3/4 by 1 3/8. So let's go to 1 3/8. By 7 3/4. That's it. This is D5. So I have this piece left over, and I'm going to put it on the side. That's a remnant that I might want to use for something else down the road. Okay. So this is done. Let's mark a V so I know I cut it. And moving on to number, where are we? Page number 9. Okay, this is it, page number 9. I only have 3 pieces. I have one big one, medium one, and a little tiny one. Okay, so obviously, let's do the big one first. Let's cut this one. So I'm going to trim this at 10. I need 10 1/4. This is what I'm cutting here now. Okay, a 10 1/4. Okay, and I'm going to cut it at 8 1/4. So turn it 90 degrees. Cut it in 8 1/4. And this one, I'm going to cut this now. 9 1/2 by 3 5/8. So let's do 3 5/8. Take this out by 9 1/2. Okay. So this is H3. This is I1. And I have this piece left. I'm going to trim 9 3/4 by 5/8. Nine 3/4 by 5/8. I don't even know if I'll use this one. I don't think I used this piece in my other album. But for now, I'm cutting it. Okay, F3. F3. This is finished. Let's go to 10. Number 10. Okay, we can take this out. Hi, Monica. Good morning. You can always do the rerun. I'll have the taped video up. So you can always go up. I don't expect anybody to be here 2 days doing it with me. I just thought it would be fun to do it live. Okay, so C2SC. I'm going to cut this paper here down the middle because I have a cut line going from one corner to the next. So this is at 6 inches. I'm going to cut it down. It's actually dividing this to 2. This is 6. Okay. And turn it around and cut it at 6 again. So these are my two C2s. C2. And let's see what we do in this one. Okay, so let's trim. I have 2 1/2 inch by 6 1/4. These are really small. And then, so let's do this one here. Let's cut this here, okay? 7 7/8 by 5. So let's go to 7 7/8. Okay. 7 7/8 by 5. That's it. That's my H6. That's this one. Trim these 2 little pieces here. It's 1/2 inch by 6 1/4. So let's cut the 6 1/4. And this is 1 inch. So right down the middle will be half and half. G3, both of them are G3. And from this piece, I'm going to trim the F3. So it's 3 by 2 3/4. Again, this is another piece that I had before. I'm not sure I will use, to be honest with you. I might not use it because I changed the design on this page a little bit. So I really don't need it. I'm going to put a question mark next to it and check it later. I might eliminate it from the cut sheet. So, but for now, it's there. 11. Look at this color I picked out. This is Basil Turquoise Mist. I haven't really found the perfect. Oops. One second. There we go. That was fun. Thank you, Alessandra. I'll see you later. Have a good day. Thanks for joining me. You all can hear me okay, right? I don't have any echoes or anything. Right? Okay. So, okay, where were we? I don't know why it jumped all of a sudden. My computer was like acting out. Okay. Oh, I know why. Because I was casting it to the TV, and when it finished casting, it unmuted me. Okay, never mind. I'm taking out the little thing here. So what I was gonna say is I'm having a hard time finding a good mint color to go with the collections, but this is as close as I could get. It's a little brighter than I would have liked it to be, but I couldn't find anything softer. If anybody knows of a soft mint color cardstock, thank you, Meg. I appreciate it. Good. So if anybody knows of a soft mint color cardstock, any brand, you know, that's a good cardstock that will go nicely with the Mintay collections, please let me know. Okay. Okay, so moving on. Okay, this is a little tricky. See, I don't really have any lines that go from corner to corner. The only closest thing I have is this one, because I have nothing here. So I'm going to trim this one first at the 3 1/4 line. So let's go to 3 1/4. And cut it to 9 3/4. That's my E3. E3. Okay. Next. So now I have all this area here. How about we'll do this one? Okay. So this is 4 1/4, and I'm going to need to cut 4 1/4 here. Like that. So turning it 90 degrees so that the 12-inch side is on the top. I'm going to 4 1/4. So it's 4 1/4 here, and now I need 7 3/4. So 7 3/4 by 4 1/4. That's my B3. Okay, now I need one that's 7 1/8 by 4 1/2, and one that is 7 3/4 by 4 1/4. So let me just make sure that I'm holding it the right way. I think this is my 12-inch side, right? This is my 12-inch side. Okay. Over here. So one side I have 8 3/4, and one I have 7 3/4. I need this side that's 8 3/4 to be on the top. Okay, this slide it down. The side that is 8 3/4 to be on the top. And I'm sliding it down. I needed to cut it at 4 1/2. And here it'll be 4 1/4. I think my dog is knocking on my door. And this will be 4 1/4. Yes. Okay, so this is 4 1/2. This is 4 1/4. The 4 1/2 by 7 and needs to be 7 1/8. Turn it down to 7 1/8. This is A7. And this is 4 1/4 by 7 3/4. I already have 7 3/4, and this is 4 1/4. Measurements is perfect. B3. Okay, so I have all of my parts here. Okay, let me show you all my parts. Okay, this is how I cut it. This is how it's showing on the schematic. And I'm just going to go over there and open the door to my dog. I think she might want to go outside. Boy, you want to come? I locked you out. No, you stay there. You stay there. No, you stay there. Okay, they think I went away and came back. Okay, so this is finished. And we'll move on to this one. Okay, I'm going to do this one with the cream color paper. Let's trim the edge. Okay, we're doing this. We're going to cut it here along this side right there. So it's a 6 by 3 3/4. So I'm going to trim it at the 3 3/4 line. 3 3/4. And now I'm going to turn it around and cut it to 6. So I have two pieces that are 6 by 3 3/4. These are H7. And I have one piece that is 8 1/4 by 10 1/4. So I think I already have the 8 1/4 over here. I have the 8 1/4 here. You know how I'm sliding down. Let me see if I can move it a little bit. Okay. If I move it a little bit this way, you'll be able to see better. Okay, because I feel like I'm working at the edge of the desk here. Okay, 10 1/4. That's J1. And this piece out of here, I have to cut 2 that are 6 1/4 by 1/2 inch. 6 1/4. By 1/2 inch, and again 1/2 inch. And these are D7 and D7. Okay, this is finished. And the last one before we go to the real fun part is this one. Look at this purple. I don't think it's coming across really, you know, it's coming up across more pink on my screen. Let's see if I can try to show you the real color. I turned the light off and you can see it's a little more purple now. It's like lavender. It's really pretty. Okay. So this last one, this one is a tricky one because I don't have any lines that will go all the way. You know, I always have to stop somewhere here. So very careful when you're cutting this paper, okay? You have to stop. So what I'm going to do, instead of just going ahead and cutting it, is I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to mark where I need the lines to be. At least the first one. So maybe the first line that I want to do is this here. It's at 5 3/4. So let's mark 5 3/4. And I'm just going to mark it with the ruler. I'm not really going to cut it. I'm just going to mark it with a pencil. Okay. And I need this to be at 7 3/4. So 7 3/4 will be just about here is where I need to stop. Okay. So I think once I cut out this first piece, it'll be easier for me to do the rest. Okay, so let's cut this now. Okay, so this is A1, right? 7 3/4 by 5 3/4. Okay, so I cut this out. Okay, you see in the schematics, this now is cut out. So what I can do is I can cut this piece out now, right over here. I have to cut it at 4 3/4. So I'm just going to turn it around. Cut it at 4 3/4. So this is 6 1/4 by 4 3/4. That's my G3. Okay. Somebody's sending me messages and my phone vibrates on top. I don't know if you can hear it. Okay, moving on. I still have these 2 pieces left. Okay. And so this is how the layout goes, right? Referring to the schematics, we cut this piece out and we cut this piece out. Now let's do this one. So this one, I can now cut it from here to here. We need to cut it at 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. So the 4 3/4 are going to be somewhere here. Let's turn it around this way. So it's sitting like that at 4 3/4. No, actually, I'm going to turn it around this way. Okay. 4 3/4. By 6 1/4. So I have to measure 6 1/4 now on top. Here we go. 6 1/4 by 4 3/4. That's my D6. And this is the last one. I need 2 1/4 by 7 1/8. Okay, so 2 1/4. I'm holding my page like this now. Do 2 1/4. 2 1/4. Turn it over by 7 1/8. So this is 7 1/4 now. I just need to take 1/8 of an inch out. This is it. A6. And these are a couple of little remnants that I have. Okay. So you want to see what we did? We have this here. We cut this out. And D6 is here. And G3 is here. Okay. This is the last page. Okay. I know, Meg, right? It's a gorgeous, gorgeous purple. I think it's called lavender. Okay, so let's mark a V next to 13. And before we're going into the pattern paper, okay, before we go into the pattern paper, these are all the cuts that I made. And let's divide them into sections so that I can put it together with the sections. Okay, so A, H, A, D, D, G, A, D, J, H, H, E, B, A, B, F, G, H, C, F, H, and I. Okay. Now we'll put it together with, I'll clip it together with the cuts that I cut with a cardstock. And it'll keep everything organized. Okay, this is H. This is G. I hope those texts are not important. Someone is really desperately texting me. So I have these two pieces on F that I don't even know if I'm going to use. Okay. E. And I have a feeling that I made a little mistake there on F somewhere. But if I did, I'm going to find a way to correct it. Okay. Don't throw away your remnants. You might need it. D, 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 D. This is my D. This is my C. B. Okay, so that was easy, right? It wasn't too hard. And these are my A's. Okay. Are we ready to cut into the pattern paper? Okay, let's do it. Take our pattern paper. Woohoo! Okay. So this is what we're going to do. I want to go over again the marking that I have here, and it's also in the description, in the cut list. I'm sorry, in the cut list. You have, go back to A. Next to the measurement of the pattern paper, the PP is the pattern paper, right? You have those numbers, 1203 number 1, okay, 605 number 1, 1204 number 2, that kind of thing. Okay, you see, I'll get closer. Here we go. You have those. What they mean is they refer to the actual sheet that you're going to be working with. Each one of the Mintay papers are marked with a number. So they have MT for Mintay, and then they have GRA, that's for Graceful, and then they have 01. You go to another sheet. You have MT for Mintay, GRA for Graceful, and O2, that's for sheet number 2. So each collection will have 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, etc. 07 is the full pack. 08 is the small 6x6. For the whole pack is 08, you see? 08, right there it says 08. It's too small. I don't know if you can see it. 09 will be your fussy cut page, which in the package, when you buy the full package, this one, when you buy the full package, 09 will be on the back cover. Right there, you see it says bonus sheets on back cover. So this will be on the back cover. If you buy it as a separate page, the number is 09. Okay. So when we are referring to the pages, we're referring to this one 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, and 06. When I say number 1 or number 2, because we have 2 of each on the 12 by 12, so on the 12 by 12, you'll have either number 1 cut and number 2. So here, this is GRA1. So GRA1 and GRA2. Okay. I'm sorry, GRA01 number 1 and GRA01 number 2. 1 and 2. They're the same. On the 6x6, you have 4 of each. So we'll be going number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. until we get number 4. That's what those numbers mean. Okay, so in the schematics that you'll see that I gave you in the sheets, on the bottom you'll have the measurement, what size paper I'm using. I'm using the 12 by 12, the Mintay, whatever collection. I have 3 little stars, so you can use whatever collection you have here. 02 is the number of the sheet that I showed you. So this will be 02 for Grateful, right? And over here is how I wrote it on the cut list. So you have 12 star, which the first 12 means for the 12 by 12. 02 means it's sheet number 2 in the collection. And number 1, it's number 1 of 2 or number 1 of 4. When you get to the last page, and I don't have a lot of the 6x6 pages cut, the last page, I only have 3, but in the cut list, you'll see 6. So you have 6x6, that's the 6x6 page, 05, and the code I gave it is 6 star 05, and then you have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Okay, and we'll get to that. So I'm cutting now. I am cutting the 12 by 12. So just before we go on, I just want to give you one more little tip, okay? One more little tip. What I've done that helps me out, and if you are a beginner, you might want to do that also. I took some old sheets that I didn't need, and I just used a pencil to mark the pages exactly to the measurements that I have here. Where is the measurements on top? Where is the measurement on the side? And the direction of the page, like this, I know this page goes to top. So if this is 1202 number 1, okay, and this is my 1202 number 1, this is how I'm going to cut this page. Okay, I'm going to bring it down a little bit so you can see. This is with a pencil, and this is my template, and this is how I'm going to cut this page. And it just helps when you have it really big right on top of it, and you can make little notes on it if you want. Okay. So what I suggest for you to do is take what I gave you here and do one of these before you actually go ahead and cut into the pattern paper. Okay. All right. So let's go on. Step number one that we're going to do is we're going to, whatever collection you use, and it will change from collection to collection. Make a decision on which sheet you want to use for the cover. So you're going to need two of them. You can use the same one, or you can change it. You can use one from here, one from there. It does not matter. Okay. So I think I'm going to use this one. This is 01. I'm going to use one of these for the cover. And one is going to go in the front, one is going to go in the back. And you can choose you want to do this the back side too. That's fine. That's totally fine. So let's see what I want to do. And I think I might want to use one of these because I have the same element here. I have the same girl on the right and I have the same girl on the left here. So I think this might be a cute thing to do when I'm doing a cover. Do maybe one of her on the right, one of her on the left. So one of the A01 sheets and one of the 03 sheets, I'm going to be using for cover. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to write cover. At the edge of the sheets right here so that I'm not covering anything else. So these are my covers. And the cutout elements, you want to put this aside too if you want to use this to fussy cut and decorate your album. If you like what's on the other side, if you bought the separate sheets and not the pack, you also have this pack. You can use that. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to keep these 3 sheets away now on the side. Okay. And now because I used up my 01 and 03, I'm going to rename it. Okay. So I used one of my 03. I'm going to take my 01 and change it to 03. Okay. So now this turned to be my 03. So I have 01 will be the cover. Always 01s are the covers. Now I have 02. I have these two as 03. 04. I have 2 04s, 2 05s, and 2 06s. Are we good so far? Okay. Both of your 01s will be a cover. You can switch and use another sheet for the cover. Just write the different number down. Okay. Just write a different number down. Like I used here, I turned it into 03. Okay. So whatever you have marked as 02, I have these 2 identical sheets. I'm taking one of them. This will be my number 1. Let's start cutting. I'm using the same principle that I've done in the previous page. Is I always go for the longest cut from side to side first. But I do need to consider the pattern underneath, and you might want to be, changing it a little bit. So take a look at the pattern paper you're using and decide where you want to cut. For example, I have this piece here, then I need 9 by 3.5. You might want to start the 9 and 3.5 by here and cut it there. Okay, and use this part. Or you might want to use it here and use this part. It depends on the paper pattern that you're using, whatever it is you're using. Okay, but take this pattern and make a decision. So I think that what I'll do, okay, is I have a bird here. I want to see how far it is. So if I'm cutting it at 3.5, I'm actually going to cut the bird in half. And I don't want to cut the bird in half. I want to keep it. I have a piece here that is 1 3/4. See, 9 3/4. And it's not interrupting. There's nothing here on the right. So I might switch it around. I might do the top part here and this narrow part I'll cut here. Okay. So look at your paper, look at your pattern, and look at the cut that I have here, and see if you want to switch things around and move things around. Let's cut this. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut this line here. And this line, I need 3.5 plus 1 3/4. And over here, it is at 6 3/4, right? So 6 3/4 from this corner to this corner is 6 3/4, which means from this corner to this corner is 6 3/4. This is my bottom of the page. Putting it at 6 3/4, and I am cutting it. Ah! Here are my 2 pieces. Okay, let's put this aside for now. I'm going to take this out. I don't need this. Okay, now we decided that we want to keep the bird. So I'm going to cut 3.5 inches over here. Right, 3.5 inches over here. It needs to go down to about 9. I think it's about 9 over here. All right. Okay. So instead of cutting it on the bottom, I cut it here. Okay. And now this piece, I'm going to cut from here. Let's do 9 3/4. And we knit here at 1 3/4. Okay, so here we are. This is it. So on the paper itself, on the schematic, it'll look like this. The bottom, right? Bottom 2. But I actually cut it like that. Instead of like this. Okay, I think it's clear. And this way I'm keeping my beautiful bird, and it's going to be an element right here at the center, and it's going to look beautiful. This is a little remnant that I have. I'll put it on the side, and I'm going to write very lightly with a pencil which one it is, because Well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to write this with a paper. You know, I don't know if I want to do that because I don't know which side I'm going to use yet. I don't know if I'm going to use this side or that side. If you're going to write it with the, if you're going to write it, I'm guessing do it very lightly. I am debating. I'm debating. Okay, I'm going to do it very, very lightly. Okay. No, I keep changing my mind. I don't want to. I'm gonna keep them all together, and then we will divide them. Okay. We'll cut all the pieces and we'll keep it together with the cut sheet. That's what we'll do. I think it would be best this way. Okay, so this is the second part. I'm going to cut now these 3 pieces here. The left one is 6 3/4 by 4 1/4. So the 4 1/4 is on top. And this is 6 3/4. Okay. This is 3 1/2. And this is also 6 3/4 by 4 1/4. And I have 4 1/4 here, just about. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep them all together, okay? Let's keep them all together. And I'm going to need a lot of clips. Okay. Make sure you have clips. This is A02, the second one, O2 number 2. O2 number 2, I only have 2 pieces. I have one very large one that's 9 3/4 by 7 3/4, and one that's 9 3/4 by 4 1/4. So let's have a look. And again, I think I might want to switch it around. I have the large one, I have a large element, and the narrow one, I have the narrow element. So how about we'll cut it here and then we'll divide those two. We're actually going to cut it this way. Okay, so I think I will trim this here. First, let's cut the little edge off so that we're not going to make a mistake and count this into our measurements. So cut this out first. And I need this at 9 3/4. So I'm going to trim it here at 9 3/4. This is a remnant. And I'm going to turn it this way and cut it at 4 1/4 here. And here I'll have the 7 3/4, right? I have 7 3/4 by 9 3/4. Here we go. See? So I cut it differently, but this is my page. Okay? Who are they barking at? Okay, so this is the second, third. 1203, number 1. So this is the first 03 that I have. I actually have 2 different 03s, remember? Because we switched it. We took one of them for the cover. So let's take both 03s and see which one is more suitable for what. Okay, so let's see what we have. I have 2 large pieces, this one and this one. Okay. I think I will use this for this, and I will use this one for that. And remember, you can always switch things around a little bit. Okay, it's perfectly okay. You can switch it around. Let's take this out. I'm using 120302 for this and 120301 for that. We're going to do 01 first. I'm going to take this little thing out. Measure it at 12 inches. And this is the paper right side up. Okay. The yellow line tells you where the bottom part is. Okay. So the first thing that I need to cut is this line right there. This line goes from side to side. I'm going to cut this out right there. I think this is a good place to have my long line right there. And over here, just want to make sure that I'm not cutting into my girl. Okay. So I may have to move things around a little bit. Let's just see 1 second. I need over here 7 1/8 by 6.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 6.5. So the 6.5 is here. Okay, I may have to switch it. Okay, which is okay. We can switch it. Okay, so 3 3/4 from the left. 3 3/4. Okay. And turn it around, and it needs to be 7 3/4 here. Okay. So I switched it. Instead of it being like this. Okay, and to use this, I just use the top because it has more interesting elements here. It depends on your pattern. Okay, look at your pattern. You might have, to want to use this part. Okay, so I have this, and I'm left with that. And let's cut this 6.5 by 7 1/8. 6.5 by 7 1/8. If I cut the 6.5 here, I'm cutting her head in half, right? We don't want to do that. So let's see what we have. Let's cut this piece out, okay? This is 1 inch. What if I cut out 1 inch? And I'm still left with barely her head right there. Barely. Okay. So over here, I think I want to do, this is what I want to do. And if you're not sure, oh, my battery is running low. Why is it not plugged in? 1 second, let me plug it in. Okay. Okay, so I think this is what I want to do. I want to cut the bottom part out here. Okay. I can play with those measurements with these things any way I want. Okay. You know, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces over here, and I can rearrange them the way I want as long as I'm leaving this room for this piece here. So what I'm going to do, believe it or not, is going to trim 3/4 of an inch out of here. And then I have the 1 inch here as well. And, you know, and if you're using this part and not this part, you can also just mark it with a pencil. You guys want to mark it with a pencil? You think it'll be easier? Okay. Let's mark it with a pencil and see what we're doing. Okay. Let's take 3/4 of an inch here. Okay, and then 6 1/2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1/2. So altogether is 7 1/4. Right, 7 1/4 brings it to right about here, which is great. I have 7 1/4 and 7 1/4, and I need this piece to be 6 1/2. By 7 1/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1/8. Okay. Seven. I think the 7 1/8 is actually on top. It's actually on top. And the 3/4 will be here. Okay. And okay, so over here we'll do the 7 5/8. By 6 1/2. By 3 1/2. By 3 1/2. Okay, you want to go outside? Go ahead. Okay, and here I need just 1 inch. I think I have enough over here, and I think that will work just fine. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and that's my 5th one right there. Okay, let's do it. Are you ready? So this is what I have left over. I'm going to turn it this way so my girl is facing me. I'm going to trim this at 3.5. Okay, and this needs to be 3.5 by 7 5/8. This is 3.5. This is by 7 5/8. Okay, so we have our A4. That's our A4. Okay, over here, I'm going to trim it by 1 inch. The width of this piece have to be almost here. I don't want to cut it all the way to the end. Let's trim this part here. Now the bottom at 3/4. 3/4 of an inch. So we need this at 3/4 by 7 5/8. I'm just going to turn it around. I have this piece here and I have a little more design there. So I'm just going to turn it around. And the 7 5/8. This is my A4. And now we have A3 and A7 are both at 7 1/8, right? They're both at 7 1/8. Okay. And I need this. This will be my A7. Also 1 7 1/8. So the width that I want to cut here is 6.5 by 7. No, 7 1/8 here. Okay, I turned it around and I'm cutting it at 7 1/8. Okay, are we good? I cut it at 7 1/8, and now I'm turning it around this way, and I need it to be cut at 6.5. It's 6.5. So I have these pieces A3. It's 6.5 by 7 1/8. Where the 7 1/8 is on top and the 6.5 is on the side. Okay. Now I have these two pieces, and these two need to be identical at 1 inch by 7 1/8. So this is already 7 1/8, and this is 1 inch. Let's do 1 inch. And let's cut this one at 1 inch. By 7 1/8. Woohoo! I have these two, and we are done. Okay. So the schematics, if you're not sure, please use a pencil. You can use one of these that I said to do. Do it on this one first. And this way you'll be able to rearrange it any way you want. Okay. So let's just take this one, which is 120301. It's this one. Okay. So this is the original sketch, and I cut it differently now, but I still have exactly the same cuts. I have this one here, I have this one here, I have this here, I have this here, I have this here, and I have this left over there. Okay. Like a puzzle. But everything is there, and I just rearranged the cuts to fit my pattern paper that I am using. Okay, so it's all there. This is a remnant. I'll put this here. Put it all together. Charlotte, I dare you, do not jump on the table. I know you girls are playing. They're going nuts right now. Running in and out. Okay. This page was challenging. Let's do this one. This one I think might be a little easier. There are bigger cuts, so the bigger cuts are easier. Let's trim over here first, and then we'll do these two. Crazy girl? Who's a crazy girl running around? Okay, so we want to cut at the 4 1/4. I think I'll cut the 4 1/4 on the top. And I have 9 3/4 by 7 3/4. So this is the 7 3/4. It's already ready for me, right? That's the 7 3/4 right there. The 9 3/4, I think I want this part. 9 3/4. Okay, so here we go. In the schematic, it looks like that. And the bottom is 4 1/4 by 9 3/4. So let's do this side. 9 3/4. Okay. So again, we switched things around a little bit. Okay, here we have 1 2 3 4. And that's my schematic. 1 2 3 4. This is a side, and these 3 pieces go with this. Okay, you are getting the hang of it? So when I did the Berrylicious album, I cut the paper exactly as it is shown here. But when I'm changing it and I'm using a different collection, I'm rearranging the cuts. Okay. This is why I left it the original way, and I did not change the schematics on your drawing, because I wanted you to see the calculation that go into where to cut it, so that you'll be able to use any Mintay collection at all. I mean, this is the 4th album that I'm doing, the 4th collection, and it's possible to use it with any collection at all. Okay, whatever you choose. Let's do 4. Okay, so 4 and 5 are going to be easier because there's less of a pattern on them. A lot of them have floral design, so it's usually easier. And I'm just going to cut it straight up exactly how the schematic is showing. I'm not going to change it. Let's take this out. Need a little bit more. Okay. This is the line that I'm going to cut first. So it is at 7 3/4. Okay. I will turn it around and cut at 9 3/4. So I'm left with a 2 1/4 by 7 3/4 here. Take this one and I'm cutting 6 6. Okay, so this is finished. That was fast and easy. And remember, you know, you don't always have to use this side. We're going to be using B side as well. So if you're left with no choice and you can't rearrange the pattern, you can always choose to use the other side. You have 2 sides to each paper. Now, Mintay GRA 04, number 2. Okay, 1204, number 2. We'll be cutting into this line first. So it's at 4 1/4. But first, let's get rid of the little bottom part. Okay. And let's trim 4 1/4. I'm turning it around. Six and 6. Okay. And the top I'm cutting at 7 3/4 by 4 3/4. So this is 7 3/4 by 4 3/4. Another 4 3/4. And here I need 7 3/4 by 2 1/4. So I need 2 1/4 here. There we go. That's it. My 5 pieces. We'll attach to this. And now we're going to do 1205. And the 1205 is floral. Let's cut the edge off. Okay, I'm going to cut this line here. Okay, and it's at 4 1/4. And it doesn't matter where you start here because it's floral and they're the same. 4 1/4. One piece at 6 3/4. And this one, it's 4 1/2. Let's turn it around and do 4 1/2 this way. Okay, so this is what the bottom is. 1 2 3, that's my remnant. 4 1/2 on top, 4 1/4 here, 6 3/4 on top, 4 1/4 here. So this is the bottom part. Now the top part, we need to trim it at 5 1/4 and then 4 1/4. Let's trim it 5 1/4. So 5 1/4 by 7 3/4. This will be 4 1/4. And I have to trim this at 6 3/4 on the side, 6 3/4. And now this piece at 2 1/4. Let me turn it around. Oh no, there's a little more pattern here. That's the only consideration, really. Okay, here we go. By 7 3/4. Great. So to show you, I have this one here. Okay, this here next to it. This is the little remnant. This here. And these two here. Okay, that's how we cut this sheet right there. The remnant I'm putting on the side. If I separate it one more time, okay. I think we have 2 more sheets and that's it. And then we'll be done. Okay. So 1205 number 2. 1205 number 2, I'm going to cut the straight line right there. Again, it is a line at 4 1/4. Okay, 4 1/4. Turn it around now. The 12-inch side is on top. I need this cut at 3 3/4. Okay. So I'm going to do this one 3 3/4 and another one at 3 3/4 and then one at 4 1/2. 3 3/4. 3 3/4. And this should be 4 1/2. It is 4 1/2. Okay. The top one, I'm going to trim at 4, at 3 1/2, and again at 4. So, you know, it doesn't matter which one. Sometimes if there's a pattern here, I just put it on both sides, the 4 and 4 on both sides, and the 3 1/2 here, because you might want to switch the pattern, but it doesn't matter. You need 2 that's 4 and 1 that's one that's 3.5. Okay. 4. 4. 3.5. So it leaves you a strip of 1/2 inch. Okay, that's my page. You can see. Okay, that's my pieces. And here I have a little remnant left over there. Okay. Next up is 1206, and we have 2 of these, and we're going to cut both of them at exactly where the cutouts are. I'm going to cut one now, and one I'll do later after the album is finished. I don't need to do both now. So the cutouts are 3x4s, and I'm trimming exactly as you see the design. Oh, I didn't cut it out. I think it's time to change a blade on my trimmer. It's been working extra hours the last couple of weeks. All right, so now I have 12 cutouts. Put this together. Okay, and I only have 3 pieces of the 6x6s that we need to cut. One is 05. No, sorry, 2 of them are 05, and one is 01. Okay, so 05 is the floral. That's 05. And one of them is 01. Okay, that's 01. Okay, so 01, I'm cutting at 2x6, so I'm cutting at 2. I'm cutting 2 on the other side as well. So we're just dividing it to 3 sections of 2x6. 1, 2, 3. Choose whichever you want. Okay, this side or that side, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, and maybe we'll use these 2. And the third one, we want to cut to 1.5. So we'll cut this at 1.5 by 5.25. Okay. Then we have these two, which one of them I'm going to cut again at 2 by 6s, 3 strips of 2 by 6s. 1 and 2. Now again, I'm going to show you, I showed you that you can divide the cuts in different locations in the paper. Let me show you. Depends on the pattern, okay? So just cut it into 3 strips of 2 by 6 and decide which other 2 you want to cut where. And 2 of them I need to cut at 2 by 3.75. So these are my pieces. Okay, see? Rearrange it any way you like. No, 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 Charlotte. No. Go back. Go back. You cannot come now. Go back. Okay. And the third piece, which is 605 number 4, I'm cutting to 4 strips of 1.5 by 5.25. So let's do 5.25. And now we'll cut it at 1.5. 1. 2. 3 and 4. So I have 4 cuts. Okay, so we have that. We're going to keep these together, and now we're going to go ahead and divide it according to the sections. And then we can take a break and start putting the album together. See, that was fun. Let's put this aside. So I have all of my cuts here, as well as my 6 by 6. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm taking these and I'm putting them around me. I don't know if you'll be able to see. I'll try. But I'm putting them like A, B, C, D, one next to each other. A, B, C, D, E, F. G here, H here, and J. Okay. So I spread it all around me. Okay. Now I'm going to take this one by one, and I'm going to put it at the section that it belongs to. But what I also want to do is divide these. So how about we'll do this first. A, K, A, B. Okay, now I'm going to go over the sections and look over here where I have a six, the six papers, because a lot of them are kept as a whole, and we will divide them. So the first on section A, we have 60501. This is the ones we just cut. Okay, so this, the 605 is A5, right? It's A5 PP. I want to show you. I want to show you here so you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm looking for the sixes here. And I have A5 PP. I have two of them. See, 1 and 2. Okay. So I have two. I need two that are 3 3/4. So these 4 pieces, right? 2 and 2. That's the one we just cut, A5 PP. In the schematics, it's these here, A5 PP, you see? It's too heavy. 1, 2, 3, 4, A5 PP. I'm taking these 4 and I'm putting it right on top of my A pile. This is my A pile. I put it right on top of my A pile. These all belong together. Okay, I'm moving on. I'm just going down the list. I'm looking for more 6 here. I have 604, 605, 604 right here. See? Okay. So 604, I need number 1. 605, I need number 2. And 604, I need number 2. So 604 is, if you don't know, you can look here. Because this is 1 reverse, 2, 3, 4. This is my 604. So I need to take 2 of the 604s and 1 of the 605. This is the 605. And I'm going to put it together in B4 because this is B4 pieces. These 3, these are B4s. I'm putting it together on the B pile. It's together with the Bs, with the B cardstock, the B solids, now the B pattern 6x6s. Okay. Putting in the back. Okay. Oh, I have one more. I'm sorry. It's printed in the next page. 604 number 3. So I need another 604. I used all my 604s on this page. Okay. That's my 604. Okay, we're done. So B4 PP, I have 4 of them. C, going down to C. I have two of them, two 6x6s. See, I have 603 and 601. I need 603 number one, and I need 601 number one. So 603 is the one. If you're not sure, always look at the one in the reverse. The 603 is the one with the purple in the back. So this is 603. And 601 is the one with the purple stripes on the back. So I have one 601, one 603, putting it together with the C's in the C pile. Moving on. 12, 12, 12, remnant 605. I have 6 here. Okay, the measurement is 2x6, so it's one of the cut pieces that I cut. The 605. It is D9 PP. It's the one in the middle. This is it. Okay. You want to make sure the D9 PP is 2x6 and this is 2x6. It goes onto the D pile. So we've done this. Moving on to E. The E's. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 6x6s here. Okay. And these are the pages that I need. 601. So 601 is the one with the purple stripes. And 601. 603 is the one with the brown leaves in the back. That's 603, and I need 2 of those. It's 1, 2, and I need 2 602s. 602. Oh no, 602. This is 602. I'm sorry, 602 is this. But I need 2 602s and 2 603s. 603 is the purple. Purple dots. 603. Okay, should have. And I need 1 605. So 605 is the one with the flowers. It's not here. See, I'm running low now. All right, we should have 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goes on top of the E pile. Okay, we did E, now F. In section F, I have 1.5 by 5 1/4 from the pieces that we cut. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I only have 5. Okay, I think one where it was going to be a remnant somewhere. Okay. So So I only have 5. I'm going to put this on the side because I think I might have a mistake here somewhere. Okay, so let's take the 5 for now and put it on the F. And we will remember that we need 1 more of these. Yeah, I was trying to figure it out yesterday, but okay. So the last 2 I think goes to G. So this is F4. So G, I have 602 and 602 twice. Okay. Six oh two. That's 602. I'm gonna turn the page over. Okay, I have 601. Let's take the pages that we're not going to use for now. Okay, I'm not using this. Not using this. This is 04. Okay. This is 04. This is 03 and 4, 3. 1, 4, and 3. Need 1, 4, and 3, and then one of these, 606. Okay. So I have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This goes on top of G. F, G. And over here, the G5, I need 2 pieces of the 2x6, which is the last 2 that I have left here. Okay, now we finished the 6x6s. Let's go to the one that we cut. Oops. Okay. And start dividing them. So this is G4. This goes on G. This is H4. This goes on H. F, G, H. Where's my H? One second. Okay. Okay. So this is H6 and H9. And this is D7. I can't believe I just dropped it. Here we go. Okay. So this is done. I'm going to mark a V on it so I know it's done. Woohoo! Okay. What do we have here? We have D10. If you're not sure which is which, just measure it again. Okay. D10. I have H9 and H6 the same. H9 and H6. This goes on H. This is H. And this is I11. Okay. This is done. Next. Keep your clips because you might need it. I don't know. D2. This goes on D, and this goes on F3. This goes on F3, F3. Okay, on to 1205 number 2. So 1205 number 2, these are D10 and D3. So it goes on to the D pile. This goes on the H pile. And this is H5, H8, and H10 go on the H pile. This is the F. This goes on the F pile. Where's my F? This is F, right? Yeah, this is F. Okay, so this is the big one. It's B1, goes on the B pile. These two are B3, go on the B pile. And this is D5, goes on the D. Okay, this is C1. E3 goes with the E's. And J will go with the I's and J's. Okay, guys, we're almost done. We're almost there. We're almost there. Okay, A3. We'll go with A. There's a lot of A's here. I think all of them are A's. This page here are all A's. A, 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 A. See? All A's. So they all go in the A pile. Don't say I don't make things easy for you. Okay, the next one is almost all of them are B, except this one is D. So this will go to D, and the rest will go on the B pile. Okay, and we are finished sorting them out. So now let's take the piles together and make sure everything is clipped properly. We don't want to lose things. Each one of those will make the page. Okay, so this is A. This is B. This is C. So what I will do is I'm going to take a little break. I need to make some tea with my throat. It is lunchtime. I'm going to have some lunch. And we're going to come back and we're going to start putting the pages together. Okay. I'm going to start easy with the easy sections and work our way to the more complicated ones. This way, if a beginner is doing it, they'll see all of the steps and the stages and work our way. Okay, I'm just arranging it so that I have this strip here in the front. I don't want to lose it. This is G. This is E. F. I'm going to do the same thing here. Again, I have those two pieces here. I'm not even sure I will use them. To be quite honest, I think I changed this one to be a little wider piece. Because after making a few albums, I made quite a few changes, and apparently I didn't change a few things in the PDF file. And this is F. This is G. Okay, and last but not least, I and J. Okay. All right, guys, I'm taking a break and I will come back here in about a half hour and we can continue on, okay? So it's 1:23 my time or 1:30 one time. Let's do a 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you here. Bye.